As the future queen of the werewolves, Genevieve's identity and destiny are full of challenges. After a series of misunderstandings and pain with her destined mate Asher, she is forced to face a greater crisis as being kidnapped by an alpha who has lost his territory. Can she overcome this crisis and rekindle her relationship with Asher? Meanwhile, how will Asher confront his faults and save his beloved? Join our pack. Subscribe to start your adventure. Chapter 15. Asher after Eve wakes up. I knew I messed everything up, but I snapped at Genevieve. It's just cause I was trying to apologize, to get her to forgive me, to give us a shot. But she and her uncle had me on a timer. I walked out her room and into my guest room. She needed space. I grabbed my bag and walked to the front door. I almost ran into Sean on the way out. He eyed my bag. You going back? Sean asked. I nodded. But she just woke up. She needs some space. I'll be back in a few hours, I said while I walked past him. I shifted into my wolf-and mind, linked Brian, telling him that I was leaving. He was relieved that he could stop doing paperwork. I had to catch up on what was going on with the pack. I ran to my territory with my bag between my canines. I arrived at the pack house about 45 minutes later. I walked through the doors and breathed in the sense of my pack members. I smelt Brian, my parents, Wendy, and a few others. Brian walked to the front door to greet me. We shook hands and hugged. Go ahead, call me a girl. But he's my best friend, and I haven't seen him in over 2 weeks. I let go of Brian, just to be jumped on. Wendy's scent created a bubble around me. She wrapped her legs around my waist and crossed her ankles over each other behind my back. She grabbed my face in her hands and pressed her lips to mine. I grabbed her thighs to hold her up while we kissed. Someone clearing their throat interrupted us. We pulled away to see Brian with his arms crossed and he was glaring at me. Wendy jumped off me and ran her hand down my chest and laced her fingers with mine. Give us a minute, Brian demanded Wendy. Well, that's rude. She nodded and pecked my cheek before leaving. What the hell is your problem? I asked my beta. Brian growled. Are you kidding me? I shot him a look and he rubbed his face. You are so stupid. I growled and glared at him. You really don't know what you did wrong. I shook my head. I was just kissing Wendy. What the hell is wrong with that? Brian sighed and rubbed his temple. You have a mate. Shit. I forgot about Eve. Things with Wendy are just habits. Could I get any more stupid? How the hell did I forget about my mate? She already gonna kill me. You should hope that she doesn't find out. Brian said. She won't find out. Unless you're gonna tell her. Brian shook his head. All right then. Let's get some work done. Wendy left when me and Brian started working. Brian didn't tell her that I met my mate, or where I was this whole time, which I was grateful for. I haven't figured out how to tell her that she can't be Luna. I already hurt Eve and I need to patch that up. I know that Wendy doesn't have anyone, and the only one that actually talks to her. I don't want to hurt her and leave her with no one. You should head back, Brian suggested when we finished the paperwork. I nodded it in agreement. You're gonna be good here, right? I've been fine these past 2 weeks. Another week or so won't hurt, Brian assured me. Go get your mate. I grinned at my best friend and went to my room. I put clean clothes in my bag and headed to the castle. It was about 4 o'clock when I got to the castle. I shifted back into my human form and swung my bag over my shoulder. I made my way to the front door, but 2 men blocked my way. Who are you? The taller man asked. I'm Genevieve's mate, I stated proudly. The men looked at each other and back at me. I have to contact Alpha Ryan, the tall man told me. I nodded and impatiently tapped my foot while he mined, linked Ryan. After about 5 minutes, I was ready to snap. Can I just go in? I've been here all week, and I just want to see my mate, I begged. It hasn't been confirmed that you are telling the truth. We can't let you in, the shorter man said. I growled and pushed past the men. I ran into the castle, and the men chased after me. Genevieve. I called for my mate while running through the halls. Genevieve. I got to her hospital room and pulled open the door. Genevieve stood in front of me. Her eyes were red and puffy. She had dark bags under her grey, blue orbs. She was most likely crying. I wanted to comfort her. Galvin was whimpering in my head as I was pulled from behind. Let go of me. She's my mate. I struggled in the guard's hands. Eve, tell this guy to let go of me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Good evening, Princess. The guard greeted my mate. Do you know this young man? Yes, this is Alpha Asher of the Blue Moon Pack, Eve calmly explained. The man let go of me and excused himself. I awkwardly scratched my head, knowing was just weak in front of my mate. We need to talk, Eve stated. I nodded and followed her into one of the guest rooms. She sat on the bed and I stood a few feet away from the bed. I'm glad you're okay. I was so Don't even act like you cared for 1 second. What are you talking about? Of course I cared. And I still do care. You're my mate, I said confused. Eve moved against the headboard. We aren't mates. What? Did she lose her memory or something? Can comas affect your memory? We are mates. Don't you remember? Don't you feel it? I took a step towards her. I stopped moving when she looked at me. Her eyes were filled with an unreadable emotion. Yeah, I remember and I can feel it. Knowing that she remembers me. Amnesia would be another thing to add to the list of fucked up shit that had happened to her. I remember you rejecting me when I first saw you. And I felt you and that redhead the same day. And I felt it again today. The smile was immediately wiped off of my face. My stomach was filled with guilt. I forgot that she feels it, but it was a mistake. It was like a reflex. I didn't even see Wendy before I left. I didn't want to repeat what happened. Eve, I swear it wasn't like that. Just let me explain. I begged her. She got up and shoved me away from the bed. It felt like her hands were on fire, but for some reason, it felt good. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. There is nothing to explain. You rejected me. You slept with that girl. You know what does to me. Yet you still did it. I didn't sleep with Wendy. I assured her softly. I knew that her wolf was probably increasing her anger for me. Her eyes held such distaste. You're just gonna lie to me now. You shouted. I fucking felt it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't even try to lie to me. When I felt everything. She shoved me with strength I didn't know she had. I stumbled back and hit the wall. Her voice broke while she spoke. I can't do that again. Galvin was pissed at me knowing that I made my mate hurt. He shouted in my head until I blocked him out. What he said registered in my mind. She won't let herself be hurt anymore. She's going to accept my rejection. But I want to take back the rejection. I want to accept her as my mate. As my Una. I swear you won't go through anything like that. Please, Genevieve. Just let me explain. I pleaded. She can't accept the rejection. I screwed up big time and a lot. What happened with Wendy was a huge mistake. I didn't plan on kissing her. It was an automatic response. I have always had Wendy to make me forget about things. She made me forget about my mate, even when I didn't want to. I can't. Her voice at a whisper. She looked up into my eyes. I silently begged her not to do it, but she opened her mouth again. Princess Genevieve Burke. My head dropped and I rushed forward. Don't, Eve. I grabbed her face so she couldn't speak. When I touched her, my skin was on fire. It was an addictive feeling. I found myself rubbing her face with my thumbs just to feel it again. Then she became limp. Her body slumped, but I caught her before she fell to the floor. Help! I shouted as I scooped my mate into my arms. Somebody help. I ran out of the guest room and into her hospital room. Jordan was sitting on the chair when I walked in. I set Eve on the bed and Jordan got up. She didn't say anything to me as she checked on my mate. Is she okay? Jordan growled at me. Leave, she ordered. Her eyes were golden. Why is she so angry? Jordan. I think you should calm down, I said softly. Suddenly Jordan was in front of me. With her strength from her baby, she shoved me. I hit the wall and groaned. Get the fuck out, she sneered. I got up and dropped my head before stepping towards Jordan. My mate just passed out. I'm not leaving, I said calmly. She growled and opened her mouth to speak, but the door swung open. Alpha Ryan, Eve's uncle, and Sean came in. The three men didn't look at me as they walked to Eve's bedside. How did this happen? Why asked Jordan. She turned to me with her arms crossed. Ask her mate. She spit out the words in disgust and hatred. 3 growls echoed in the room. All eyes were on me, and all of them were flashing golden or darkening. The men got up and nodded at each other. Then, I was pinned to the wall with Sean and Isaac holding me down on both sides. Jordan was checking on Eve, while Ryan approached me slowly. What are you doing? I shouted my mate's family. They all growled, making me shut up. You will leave now. I never want to smell your scent anywhere, near the castle or my niece, Ryan said calmly. I thrashed against Sean and Isaac. I'm not leaving. You can't keep me away from her. I'm her mate, I yelled. You rejected her, Ryan growled. Don't you dare call her your mate. I love her. What did you just say? Sean asked while he and Isaac released my arms. My body slumped forward as I looked at them. I love her, I said softly. Please, don't make me leave. I begged on the verge of tears. I needed to fix this. I needed to fix everything. The thought of never seeing Eve crushed my soul. I fucked up, but I couldn't deny the feelings I got when I saw her. I couldn't just let go of the bond that our wolves have rebuilt while she was in a coma. Eve might want me on a different planet, but I would never stop trying to be right next to her. By turn, Jordan cut off her mate. We all looked and saw that she was clutching her stomach. The baby's coming. Chapter 16 Ryan. The baby's coming, Jordan yelled. I quickly rushed to her side and helped her stand. Jordan is in labor. I mind, linked the doctor. I'll be there as soon as I can, he responded. Come on, the doctor is on his way. I started walking, but paused at the door. Isaac. Take Jordan to a room. I'll stay here with Eve. You are not leaving me. Jordan growled and pulled me to the door. I'll stay with Eve, Asher offered. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Does he think that we actually would trust him after knowing the full story? I'm not leaving you alone with her, I turned to Sean. Stay with Eventon. Sean nodded. Me and Isaac helped Jordan walk to another room. We laid her on the bed and I held her hand as Isaac walked out. Our pup is coming. My wolf shouted excitedly. Jordan screamed and grabbed my arm. She squeezed my arm and started pounding. Breathe, Jordan, I said softly. She growled. Don't tell me what to do. Her eyes flashed golden and she clutched my arm tighter. Hurry. Her wolf is trying to take over, I told the doctor. Calm her down. The baby can't come out if she shifts. I lightly kissed Jordan's forehead. The doctor is almost here. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Tell him to hurry up. I want this kid out of me. She growled. I know. Babe. I kissed her temple and wiped away her sweat. She leaned into my touch and purr. The doctor rushed in and quickly put on gloves. Let's get started. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Can you take off her pants and underwear? I nodded and took off Jordan's clothes. The doctor asked Jordan to lift her, bend her legs. He sat at the foot of the bed, in front of her. I had to fight my wolf when he lifted up the blanket. That's our mate. He's the doctor. He's just doing his job. I told him. I took deep breaths to calm my wolf. I see the head, the doctor announced. My wolf was no longer angry or jealous. He was joyful and happy. I need you to push. Jordan, don't tell me what to do, she roared. Deep breaths. Just push. And calm down. You can't shift right now. I told my mate through our mind, link. I'll shift if I want to. She shouted. Her eyes flashed gold. I saw the doctor pull a syringe out of his pocket, and I growled. Liquid wolfsbane. It won't hurt her. Just keep her wolf from taking over, the doctor explained. I nodded and held down Jordan's arm. He injected the liquid into her vein and went back to the edge of the bed. Push, the doctor demanded. Jordan screamed as she pushed and squeezed my arm. Good job. Keep pushing. Jordan pushed and bit her lip to keep in a scream. You're doing great. One more big push. Jordan screamed as she pushed with all her might. The sound of baby crying filled my ears. Werewolf births only take less than an hour since our bodies function faster than a human's. Jordan's grip on me relaxed and she took deep breaths. I heard a light snip as the doctor cut the cord. He quickly cleaned the baby faster than a flash. Congratulations. The doctor wrapped the beautiful baby in a blanket and handed her to Jordan. Thank you, doctor, I said and nodded my head at the man. Congratulations, Alpha and Luna. The doctor walked out the room, leaving me with my little family. The baby stopped crying and opened her eyes. She has your eyes, I whispered to Jordan. She's beautiful, Jordan said in between pants. She kissed the baby's head. Little Elise. I kissed my daughter head. Welcome to the family. Elise, I whispered. We decided to name our baby girl after the Queen a few weeks ago. Jordan handed me my daughter. I carefully held Elise and dropped her back and forth. I'm exhausted, Jordan sighed. I kissed her forehead. To our agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'll bring the crib in here. Jordan nodded and drifted asleep. Tell someone to bring the crib into Jordan's room. Please, I told Sean. Congratulations. Eve's awake, by the way. Thank you. I'll be there soon. A guard came in with the crib and put it against the wall. After saying a quick congrats, the guard stood to the side. I told him to stay in the room for protection. I gently placed my sleeping daughter and kissed her head before walking to my mate's side. She was already fast asleep. Knowing that she's a light sleeper, I quietly slipped out of the room. I went into Eve's room and saw her sitting up against the headboard. Asher was sitting on the floor. Sean was in the chair next to Eve, and Isaac was leaning against the wall. Hey, Eve greeted me. How's Jordan? She's resting, I informed her. The baby. Eve just woke up from fainting, and she's worried about Jordan and our baby. She is beautiful, has the same eyes as Hermel. What's her name? Sean asked. Eve smiled at me and answered, How did you know? I questioned. Jordan told me when I was in a coma, she stated while beaming at me. Wait. Asher stood up. You could hear us? He inquired. Eve shrugged. Sometimes. Did you hear me? Asher asked, hopeful. Eve shook her head and looked confused. What happened before you passed out? I changed the subject. I needed to know how to torture Asher for later on. I touched her. Asher answered. You did what? Isaac and I started stalking towards Asher. Genevieve, you did what? Ryan shouted. Him and my uncle slowly walked towards Asher. Why on earth did he say it like that? Stop. I shouted before they heard him. He didn't touch me. He just grabbed my face. And I felt the mate thingy. I tried explaining. Isaac and Ryan nodded in understanding. Mate thingy? Sean asked, confused. It's a feeling you get when you touch your mate. It's like tiny prickling, Isaac explained. Sean tilted his head, looking like a lost puppy. So how did you faint? He inquired. I guess it was too much. I answered. Everything was way too much. Just one thing after another. It was impossible for me to keep calm. Everything was just on overdrive. Like everything in my body was overheating and couldn't function anymore. Can I talk to Eve? Asher asked. Ryan growled at him, but Isaac pushed Ryan towards the door. Isaac sent me a wink. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Let's go see Elise. Ryan's eyes corked out the door. Since when is Isaac on his side? What do you want? I asked Asher. He cleared his throat and looked at Sean. Can you just give us a few minutes? Please. He requested. Sean stared at Asher, scrutinizing him. After a while, Sean nodded and turned to me. Give him a chance, he said through the mind link. I thought Sean was on my side. He hurt me, I argued. Just hear him out. Sean blocked me out, restricting me from saying anything else. He nodded at Asher and left the room. I swear, these guys are so indecisive. They love him 'cause he stayed here. Then they hate him after finding out what happened when we met. Now they're back to suggesting I should give him a chance. The least I could do was listen, then cut him out of my life. Talk, I demanded. Where should I start? Why would you still sleep with Wendy when you know what it does to me? I asked softly. I was already weak. I was in a coma from everything. Why would you do that? I hated how broken I sounded, but I needed to know. I should be strong. I'm supposed to be queen. I hated how weak he made me feel. I didn't sleep with Wendy. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I raised an eyebrow. I mean, I did sleep with her, but that was before you went into the coma. It was before you left, he explained, but it was after you rejected me. Asher nodded. It was a stupid move. I know. I just couldn't get you out of my head, so. So you got laid, I stated bluntly. Asher shook his head. We had sex, but it's not like I did it to intentionally hurt you. I didn't know this would happen. Well, it did happen, and it hurt like hell, I said bitterly. Asher walked forward until he was next to my bed. I know, he said quietly. Are you sure? I asked while looking up at him. 'Cause you seem to be forgetting the part where I was in a coma. I almost died because of this. I know, Asher shouted angrily. I moved my gaze down and started playing with my blanket. I could never forget about what happened. I was here the whole time. I watched you while you were in pain. It hurt me too. I couldn't help you. All I could do was watch. I hate myself because of it. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. I just want to make it right. Let me fix this, he begged. I felt the tingles as he lifted my chin up to look at him. Let me fix her. I frowned and moved his hand off my face. I can't go through the pain again. I really won't survive. Adding more pain would destroy me. I could feel it. But I could also feel that I couldn't take a step away from Asher. I couldn't fight our destined bond. Asher shook his head. You don't have to go through that ever again. Just give me a chance, he whispered. Sean's words rang in my head. Give him a chance, somehow. Asher has my best friend on his side. And I know for a fact that Sean wouldn't approve of him, unless he had a good reason. But well, he's an ass. Any advice? I asked my wolf. He's our mate. We should be with him. That's how it's supposed to be, she stated. But if he hurts us, I'm ripping that redhead limb by limb, she responded. Well, she's violent. But I'm not against her on that. So was her, asked, looking nervous. One chance. As soon as the words left my mouth, Asher kissed me. There were tingles covering my lips. He placed his hands on my waist, making the burning sensation erupt. His lips were soft on mine. The kiss was slow and gentle. I wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled him closer. He pulled away and leaned his forehead against mine. We should stop, he said breathlessly. I nodded and he pecked my lips before taking a step back. Fucking mate bond. I hate how the bond makes mates be all over each other. It's quite disturbing at times, like now for example. I still don't forgive you. Yet, I stated stubbornly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I still don't forgive you. Yet, you've stated. I grinned at my mate. Her lips were red and swollen from the kiss. Work of yours truly. I didn't expect you to. I like a challenge. Eve's cheeks turned red and she tried hiding behind her hair. I stepped closer and pushed the hair out of her face. Her blush got deeper and I chuckled. You're cute when you blush. Thanks, she said and got redder. I laughed and dropped my hand. So what now? She asked while pushing her hair behind her ear. Wanna go for a walk? I haven't seen much of the territory. Eve nodded in agreement. Sure, just let me change. I nodded and helped her stand up. The fiery feeling burst when I grabbed her hand. I'll meet you out front. Eve nodded and I reluctantly let go of her. I watched her walk out the room and down the hall. Where's she going? Shaw asked from behind me. We're going for a walk. She's giving you a chance. I don't know what you said to her, but I know that you said something. So faint. I stuck my hand out for him to shake. If you hurt her, I won't hurt her, I assured him. Never again. And if I ever do, you have permission to beat the crap out of me. I'll remember you said that, Sean said and walked off. I chuckled and went to the front of the castle. I walked through the front door and saw a familiar guard standing at the stairs. He's the one that chased after me. Are you leaving now? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The guard asked. I'm staying here for a while, but Genevieve and I will be going for a walk. I informed him. I'm assuming it will just be you two. I nodded. This goes without saying, but it is getting dark out, and she is a target. Please keep Princess Genevieve safe. Being a princess dangerous. I nodded at the man. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I said with a smile. The door opened and Eve walked out. She was wearing ripped jeans, a white shirt, a black leather jacket, and a light grey beanie. Hello, Scott. My mate greeted the guard. Scott bowed his head. Good evening, Princess. Eve surprised me by interlacing our fingers. The tingles started and I smiled at our joined hands. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Eve nodded and we walked away from the castle. She led us into the woods. There wasn't a path, but it looked like she knew where we were. We walked in silence for about 20 minutes. Where are we going? I asked curiously. You'll see, she stated. I chuckled. Isn't it supposed to be me who surprises you? I questioned. Eve shrugged. We're almost there. I nodded and followed her for about 10 more minutes. We got to a log cabin. It was 2 stories, with a balcony on the 2nd floor. Windows covered majority of the house, and the wood was a dark brown color. Come on. Eve gently squeezed my hand and pulled me towards the house. We got to the front door and put a code in the keypad with her free hand. Fancy. We walked into the house and Eve turned on the lights. It was very spacious. There was very little furniture. It didn't look like anyone lived here. What is this place? This is where my parents were gonna live after I took the throne, she explained. I gave her a small smile and squeezed her hand. We need to talk about that, she said softly. About what? About her parents or about where we're gonna live? The throne. Eve let go of my hand and walked further into the house. We reached a small living room and we both sat on the couch. I was the heir to the throne. Now, I'm gonna be queen, she informed me, so she has to rule the werewolves. What does this have to do with me? I asked, confused. Eve giggled. It was the best sound I've heard all week. I can't rule all the worse on my own. You're my mate. I know that you have a pack, but you're supposed to be king, she explained. I was trained to be an alpha, but not a king. I'm not fit to rule the entire race of werewolves. Eve grabbed my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. You don't have to decide anything yet. I just thought that you deserved to know, before we get too deep in us. I just nodded in response. You're acting like a girl. Gavin scolded me. Well, my wolf is an asshole. I quickly blocked him out. So, what are we doing here? I changed the subject and gestured around the house. My parents left some of their stuff here. I wanted to look for something. She seems to not mind talking about her parents. I shrugged it off and asked, what is it? It's a locket. Jordan said that Mom was gonna give it to me when I found my mate, she said softly. I lifted her hand up and pressed a light kiss on it. Come on, I'll help find it. I pulled her off the couch and we started our search. Chapter 17, Genevieve, I give up. I exclaimed while plopping down on my parents' bed. We've been looking for over an hour. For that necklace and I don't even know what it looks like. I felt the mattress dip, and my mate sense surrounded me. Come on. Asher gently tugged on my arm. I groaned and buried my head into the pillow. You stay here. I'll finish looking, he decided. I nodded in agreement and sat against the headboard. Asher got up and started looking through some drawers. I pulled my knees up to my chest and rested my head on top. I need to find this necklace. I found my mate, and my mom is supposed to give it to me. I wish she was here to give it to me. It's the last gift that she got me. The last gift I will ever from her, Eve. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Snapping me out of my thoughts. I mumbled sleepily. Asher chuckled. I think I found it. I quickly looked up, and my neck cracked. I groaned and Dasher laughed at me. He handed me a long black box and began rubbing my neck. I leaned into his touch and fiddled with the box. Did you open it? I asked my mate. Nope. He answered immediately. I honestly thought he would snoop and look at it before giving it to me. I nodded and slowly opened the box. It was beautiful. The locket was around a silver chain, but it wasn't actually silver. The locket itself was also a silver color. It was round with flowery designs circling around a moon. I carefully lifted it up by the chain. It twirled around to reveal the back of the locket. A wolf's heart. I read aloud and started tearing up. I had a flash of my parents' bodies and it caused me to let out a blood-curdling scream. Blood everywhere. My father's head was nowhere near his body. His arm was ripped off. My mother didn't have either arms. And their hearts. There were holes in the middle of their chests. The hearts were thrown carelessly on the floor. They didn't deserve to die like that. They didn't deserve to die at all. They were great rulers, amazing parents, amazing people. Why would someone kill them, Eve? Asher screamed. I blinked back the image and noticed that my mate was standing in front of me. Asher. There was B. Blood, I stuttered. T there H. Hearts were. I cut myself off with a loud sob. Shasha cooed softly in my ear. He wrapped his arms around me and his warmth enveloped me like a blanket. Please, stop crying. I felt wetness on my back. I pulled away and looked at my mate. His eyes were red and there was a single tear stick going down his cheek. I am sorry. I choked out. He pulled me back into his gentle embrace. Why are you sorry? He whispered after I calmed down. I'm a mess. My parents just died. I went into a coma. I have to be queen of all werewolves. I have to take care of my younger brother. Those had asked, completely confused. I sighed and pulled away from my mate. I took a few minutes to calm myself before explaining. It's a lot of baggage. Having a mate like me, it's a lot of stress, a lot of patience, a lot of responsibility. I can't do that to you. I told him honestly. You already have a pack to take care of. You don't need me and my problems, I said sadly and looked at my fiddling hands. Asher gently lifted up my chin and looked into my eyes. I don't care. You are my mate. I would do anything for you because that's what mates do. I fucked up, but I swear I'm here to stay now. I knew what I was getting into. I want this. I want you. I need you. He pressed a soft lingering kiss on my forehead. Any problems that you have are mine too. That doesn't seem fair. He doesn't need more on his plate. He's an alpha. That's enough problems. Then he has to add being the future kin. He doesn't exactly need my problems added on top of that. Even if he did put me through a lot, I don't like the thought of him feeling obligated to do whatever I want because of the rejection. But I'm not going anywhere. Asher cut me off. I wrapped my arms around his waist and buried my head in his chest. Promise? I asked softly. It might sound childish, but I just needed the assurance. Chapter 18 Asher. After Eve's breakdown, I held her on the bed for almost an hour. It was calming. Having my mate in my arms, knowing that she was safe, it made me feel at ease. Can you help me put it on? Eve asked and held up her locket. I gently took the necklace and pushed her hair to the right side of her neck. I clasped the necklace and kissed her shoulder. She shivered and I smirked against her skin. You know, kiss. I really kiss. Really kiss. Want to kiss? Mark you. I parted my lips and ran my tongue along her skin. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Eve whispered breathlessly yes. I asked innocently. We should head back now. My mate suggested. I kissed the sensitive space between her neck and shoulder, where I would eventually mark her. That's not what you really want. I questioned. No, she said instantly, then cursed at herself and groaned. Let's just go, she decided. I smiled at my mate and followed her out the room. We were walking back to the castle when Brian linked me. How's Eve? Brian asked. As my mate, Eve is technically the Luna. So of course my beta would be worried about her, as well as the other pack members. She's good. We're walking around right now. I informed him. Good. When's she meeting the pack? I gently grabbed Eve's hand and pulled her closer to me. Do you want to meet my pack? Straightforward. Sure. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I inquired. I thought she would want to wait a while. She's been through a lot these past few weeks. I'm to blame for that. I thought meeting the pack would just add on to the stress. We're mates, so I would have to meet them eventually, she said with a shrug. I pulled her to a stop and turned so we were face to face. What? She questioned. You just said we're mates. I beamed at her. So she dragged on. You've just never really said it out loud. I said and continued to walk again. She practically denied me as her mate after I rejected her. And I deserved it. When will I meet them? Whenever you're ready. Genevieve. When we got back to the castle, Asher walked me to my room. We agreed that I would meet the pack tomorrow, so we can stay for the weekend. I figured that Matthew could get out the castle, so we're gonna take him with us. Asher went to his guest room, and I fell asleep. I woke up around 5 a.m. Since we're taking Matthew with us, we have to drive to the pack house. I quickly got changed and went into my little brother's room. He was still sleeping with his leg hanging out of the Toy Story covers. Deciding not to wake him, I put a hoodie on him and carried him out the room. I grabbed the duffel bag that had the clothes and Matthew's backpack that had his toys. I went to Asher's room and knocked on the door. Asher opened the door. He was already dressed and had a duffel bag on his shoulder. To our agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I nodded and started walking away, but I dropped Matthew's backpack. Asher chuckled as I failed to pick up the bag. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He said as he took the duffel bag as well as Matthew's backpack. Thanks, I whispered. He nodded in response and we went to the car. I buckled Matthew in the seat while Asher put the bags in the trunk. I quickly linked Tryon and told him that we were leaving. I sat in the passenger seat while Asher drove. I wanted to stay awake, but I kept yawning and my eyes struggled to stay open. Asher noticed and grabbed a wool blanket from the back seat. He placed it around me and told me to sleep. I shook my head with another yawn. Just sleep. I'll wake you up when we enter the territory, he said softly. I nodded and looked back at Matthew. Wake me up if he wakes up too. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Asher nodded and I fell asleep again. Eve Asher cooed and gently shook me. I groaned and covered my face with the blanket Eve. The pack house is a few minutes away, he informed me. I slowly lifted my head up and dropped my eyes. I turned around and saw Matthew still sleeping. What time is it? I asked while stretching my arms in front of me. 7:30, Asher answered. I nodded and we fell into a relaxing silence, until Asher decided to open his mouth. I told the pack that I'm introducing the Luna tonight. Asher blurted. You what? I exclaimed. Matthew mumbled and stirred in his sleep. You what? I yelled. A ceremony. We haven't even fixed everything between us. Now he wants me to just help him lead a pack. We haven't even talked about it. How am I supposed to be Luna and Queen? How is he supposed to be Alpha and King? I can't lead a pack and be a queen. That's too much. Too dangerous. If someone found out that I'm queen, they would come after the pack. They would use the pack to get to me. I don't want them to get hurt because of me. I didn't tell them who you are yet. I just set up the ceremony. The pack will come and a few alphas from neighboring packs. Asha informed me. I'm gonna be a Luna and a queen, I said slowly. How will I manage doing that? Asher grabbed my hand in his and drove with his left hand. I don't want to give up my pack. I know that's a lot of responsibility, but we can figure it out, he declared. So he'll have to balance being an alpha and being a king. Well, at least we're in the same boat. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Just don't tell them that I'm a royal. But they'll see it when we complete the ceremony, he reminded me. During a Luna ceremony, the pack introduces themselves to the Luna. Then they all shift and howl. Like in Lion King, but we howl instead of roaring. Can we just do that some other time? I asked sweetly. Asher kept his eyes on the road and shook his head. Look, it's not that I don't want to be Luna, I assured him. I just think it's dangerous. My pack won't hurt you. I'm not worried about them hurting me. If word gets out that the future queen is a Luna, people will come after the pack. I don't want them to get hurt, I explained. No one is gonna get hurt, Asher said as we turned onto the driveway. We don't have to complete the ceremony tonight. Asher parked and turned off the car. I unbuckled my seat belt and leaned over the center console to hug my mate. The tingles started on my skin, causing me to smile. Thank you, I whispered to Asher. You're welcome. Let's go inside. Brian has been waiting for me to bring you back, he informed me with an eye roll. I chuckled and got Matthew out the car. The three of us walked into the pack house. Brian ran downstairs and hugged me. Thank the goddess you're okay, he exclaimed. I motioned to Matthew. Brian mouthed, sorry. I nodded and asked where the guest bedroom is. Asher led me upstairs to the second floor. He had a guest room set up for me and Matthew. We are in the room across from his. I put Matthew in the bed and left the door open. We went back downstairs to Brian. Who's the kid? Brian asked. My little brother, Matthew. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Brian kept asking questions about Matthew, which I answered with a few words. Then, he left to get his mate. Asher and I went into his office and talked about random things. He has a younger sister, who lives with his aunt. His mum was killed by rogues, and his dad couldn't survive without his mate. Needless to say, I avoided all topics about family after that. We talked for hours. We stopped when the door opened. Baby, a girl squealed. I watched as the familiar redhead sauntered over to my mate and kissed him. Chapter 19. Genevieve, the pain erupted in my stomach. I winced, but it was over in a short moment. That has to be the fastest one that's passed. However, the redhead was still sitting on my mate's lap. It was like time froze, making me think that their kiss was lasting forever, but it was literally a couple of seconds. I pushed back all the hurt and all the anger, while putting on an emotionless face. I loudly cleared my throat and they pulled away from each other. I didn't dare to look at Asher. I stared at the red head that was sitting on my mate's lap. She turned to me, and looked as if she just noticed me sitting in the chair. Hello. I'm Luna Wendikira, she introduced herself. Luna. I stepped my hand out for her to shake. Princess Genevieve Burke. She stopped shaking my hand and slightly bowed her head. I apologize for interrupting your meeting, Princess, she said respectfully. How ironic is that? She's making out with my mate right in front of me, but she actually has manners. Oh no, I shook my head. Don't apologize. We're done, I stated and walked out the room. Asher knew what I meant with those last two words. I knew what I was doing. It was over. He can get on his knees and beg, but it would take a lot more just for me to talk to him. When the door closed, I let my tears fall out. I didn't sob. I just cried. I started running to the guest room, but I bumped into someone and stumbled backwards. "So, are you all right?" I looked up and saw a young girl with light brown hair. I nodded my head and walked into Matthew's room. I quickly shut the door and locked it. Matthew woke up when the door closed. "Eve," he asked sleepily. I sat on the bed next to him. Sorry. Squirt. Go be back to sleep," I said shakily. Matthew rubbed his eyes and studied my face, before wrapping his small arms around me. "Why are you crying?" "I just got hurt," I whispered. "Do you need to see the doctor?" He asked innocently. I sighed and wiped my face. "No, I just want to rest." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Let's take a nap," he decided. Matthew, Eve's little brother, I let Eve hug me while she cried. I don't know why she's crying. It doesn't look like she got hurt, but I didn't ask her about it. I wrapped my arms around her waist, and she started to fall asleep. She softly snored with her head resting on the pillow. I lay next to her and stared at the ceiling. I slept most of the day, so I'm wide awake now. I heard yelling downstairs. Then a door slammed. Someone tried opening the bedroom door, but Eve locked it. Looking at the bottom of the door, I watched as the person's shadow left. I walked over to the door and peeked outside. Asher was walking down the hallway. As quietly as I could, I went back into the room and shut the door. Eve started groaning and I turned around. There was a man carrying her. I opened my mouth to scream, but someone grabbed me from behind. He put his large hand over my mouth, and all my words were muffled. What should I do with the kid? The man holding me asked. "Leave him. We just need the girl," the guy with Eve said. I started kicking and thrashing against the man. He chuckled and easily kept me still. AW. "Does the little guy want his sister to stay?" The man eased me. I nodded my head, not realizing his taunting manners. The guy holding Eve walked towards us until he was right in front of me. "You tell the royal pack that Alpha Thomas Jacobs has the future queen. And if they want her back, come and get her." He put Eve down on the bed and grabbed a bag from next to the window. He pulled out black duct tape, tightly put a strip on my lips, and taped my hands and feet together. The men watched and laughed at me while I struggled to get out. They both carried Eve out the window and disappeared. Tears poured down my cheeks and were wetting the carpet. I started sobbing and screaming for my sister. All of my screams were suppressed by the tape. I kept screaming for almost half an hour. I decided that I needed to do something else. I shuffled over to the closest wall and started banging with my hands and feet. More tears rolled down my cheeks at the pain, but I needed to get help. I needed to get Eve. I rolled so I was in a sitting position with my feet at the bottom of the wall. I kicked forward as hard as I could, but it didn't make a loud enough noise. I looked around for something louder, something that will get someone's attention. Lamp. I rolled towards the nightstand and started hitting it. The lamp was shaking, but it didn't fall. I focused all my strength on the piece of wood. I kicked it with all my might. The lamp tilted from left to right until it fell to the floor. Not even a minute later, Asher came into the room with another guy. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Asher exclaimed and ran over to me. He easily tore the tape off my wrists and ankles, then gently peeled the tape off my mouth. My skin was numb and red where the man put the tape on me. I started rubbing my wrists and I wiped my face. What happened? Asher asked. They took Eve. I sniffled. What? Asher shouted. Who took her? Who took her? Asher growled. His eyes flashed gold and I scooted away from him. I let out a loud sob and started rocking back and forth while crying. Now he was mad at me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The guy who came in with my sister's mate shouted. Yelling at him isn't gonna help. He just got tied up and someone took his sister. Take it easy. Asher took deep breaths before walking over to me. Matthew, I really need your help. Who took Eve? Asher asked softly. I calmed myself down before answering. To guys, I responded. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. When did they take her? He inquired. I don't know. She was crying. Then she fell asleep. They took her while she was sleeping. I need you to tell me exactly what happened. Asher stated. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I saw a guy grabbing her and I was gonna scream, but they covered my mouth and taped my hands and feet together. I tried to help her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I tried, but I couldn't. I couldn't help you, Eve. I started sobbing again. Asher gently picked me up. Brian. The guy who walked in with Asher looked at us. I'm gonna take Matthew to see the pack doctor. Double the patrol around the borders and send trackers out to find Eve. Yes, Alpha. Brian nodded. Asher walked out of the room and I started to fall asleep. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Matthew fell asleep while I walked to the doctor's office. The pack doctor checked on him and said that he will heal, but needs to rest. I thanked him and went back to the guest room. I could smell the 2 scents, mixed with Eve's scent. All 3 were barely noticeable. They've been gone almost an hour. I angrily punched the wall. I wasn't angry at the men who took her, but I was pissed at myself. I hurt her again. I told her that she wouldn't go through the pain. I told her that I would stay with her. I let Wendy kiss me. How the hell could I always forget about Eve? She's my mate. How could I let that happen again? If I didn't let Wendy kiss me, if I pushed her off, Eve would have stayed in the office. She wouldn't be upstairs for the men to take her. She would be safe with me. She would be here. I could have stopped this. I slid down the wall and sat with my head in my hands. Brian came inside the room. We'll get her back, he assured me. This is all my fault. I voiced my thoughts. Brian sat a foot away from me against the wall. You couldn't have stopped them. Yes, I could. She came here because of me. She wanted to meet the pack. You didn't force her to come here. I pulled at my hair. I mean, she came in the room because of me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Wendy came into my office and I fucking kissed her. In front of Eve. I angrily shouted. You're an idiot. Brian bluntly replied. I have to be like the worst mate ever. Brian got up grinning like an idiot. Not if you find her. Then you'll be a hero. That's cheesy. But it's true. So get off your lazy ass and go find the princess. Brian demanded. I pushed myself off the wall and stood up. Did the trackers find anything? Going into alpha mode, they followed the scents. The 2 men met up with another group. None of the scents smelt like rogues, Brian reported. If they're not rogues, then who the hell are they? I'm not sure. Their scents aren't familiar to any of the warriors or trackers. So they're part of a pack that we haven't come in contact with? I questioned. Brian nodded. Well, how am I supposed to find her then? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He had seen or heard something. We can ask him. Matthew is asleep, I reminded him, so we'll wait till he wakes up. Chapter 20. Genevieve. I woke up on a concrete floor. It was freezing and highly uncomfortable. I looked around and noted that I was in a cage, in a basement like where packs keep rogues and enemies. There were 2 other cages, both empty. Surprisingly, I didn't have chains on me, and there was a bed that looked semi-comfortable. Sleeping Beauty finally woke up. I looked around for the voice, but no one was in the room. Who's there? I called out. Look in the top corner of your cell, the voice demanded. I turned around and looked at the ceiling. Where the wall and ceiling meet, there was a security camera. It pointed directly at me. I sweetly smiled at the camera and gave it the finger. I would expect more from the Queen, the voice stated with a light chuckle. I rolled my eyes. What do you want? I questioned. I want my pack. I got up and sat against the wall. I don't know who you are, so I can't help you, I stated calmly. The voice was quiet. I heard a lock, then a creaking noise. It must be a door. Light came through the left side of the room, and I saw 2 shadows. The door closed, and a man stepped towards my cage. I'm Alpha Thomas Jacobs. The brunette man introduced himself. This is Beta Eric Hefner. He pointed at the man next to him. I nodded at them. My wolf wasn't going crazy trying to get me out of here, so I stayed calm. Do you know who we are? The Beta asked. Should I? The 2 men shared a look and chuckled. I was the Alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack. Eric is from Nightfall. I stared at the men with wide eyes. The 2 packs that mated to Alphas. I voiced my thoughts. So you have heard of us, Alpha Jacob stated. I heard that you were power-hungry holes who killed an unborn child. Alpha Jacobs growled at me. We were combining to packs. Nothing is wrong with that, he defended, but a frown appeared on his face. And we didn't know that Slut was pregnant, Bade the Hefner added. I ignored him and looked at the Alpha. You killed your mate. You killed your child. She was weak, Alpha Jacob said with a shrug. I could tell that it was getting to him. He was putting on a show, acting like he didn't care about his mate. But it was obvious that he genuinely didn't know about his child. Enough about us. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Tell me, Queen Genevieve, how is it that a beautiful girl like yourself gets rejected? I put on my own emotionals as mask. I don't know what you're talking about. Alpha Jacobs chuckled. If you're gonna lie to me, at least say something more original. My parents just died and my mate kissed a girl in front of me. I don't feel like dealing with your shit. Did I hit a nerve? Alpha Jacobs teased while I glared at him. Let's talk about the other men in your life. What other men? Well, I'm obviously not talking about your father, since I ripped his heart out. I got up and stood in front of the men with only the bars of the cell separating us. When I get out of here, I'll skin you with a cheese grater. Then I'll use wolfsbane and silver to write my name on what's left of your vile body. See, now that's original. Alpha Jacobs applauded me. I narrowed my eyes at him, then walked to the bed. I sat down with my back against the wall. Now I suggest you cooperate with us, Beta Hefner said. I shook my head. Nope. That's never gonna happen, I decided. Alpha Jacobs neglected my protest. We need you to contact the Royal Pack. The head Alpha specifically, he commanded. I scoffed and shook my head. Not gonna happen. I refused. You are the one inside a cage, remember? I ignored the man. Do you need some encouragement? Beta Hefner handed his Alpha a cell phone. Alfred Jacobs unlocked the device and tapped on the screen. He held the phone out with the screen facing me. It was Matthew. He was tied up with duct tape. He had tears streaming down his face. I would be ripping these men's heads off, but I know that they don't have Matthew here. His scent isn't here, and I'm in the background of the picture. We were still in the guest room. Dumb asses. Are you gonna cooperate now? Alfred Jacobs asked. Much to his surprise, I shook my head. I know that you don't have my brother here. They didn't ask how I knew. They just shrugged. Smart girl, the beta said. I guess that we have to give you another inspiration. Bring her in. The door opened again, and a man walked in. He was dragging a girl by her arm. She had light brown hair. It was the girl that I bumped into at the pack house. They kidnapped a pack member. The man dropped her on the floor and walked out now. You will do what we say, or this girl will be punished, Alpha Jacobs threatened. I ignored him and stared at the girl. She looked unharmed. So far. Alpha Jacobs took 2 steps closer to the girl. He pulled her by her hair. She winced and a few tears rolled down her face. Please don't hurt me, she pleaded. One more chance. When I didn't respond, Alpha Jacobs grabbed the girl's arm and pulled her towards my cell. He pushed her onto the cage, and she screamed. Her skin started burning where she touched the cage. It must be Silver. Stop. Alfred Jacobs quickly pulled the girl off the cage. So you'll cooperate? He questioned. I looked at the girl who was now passed out and I nodded at the Alpha. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They jumped out the window, Matthew informed me. He woke up an hour ago, and I started asking him questions again. Drive. Nail, the pack counselor, wanted to be here. He said that Matthew might suffer from PTSD, so he could help calm him down. Did they say anything to you? Drive, Nail asked. I don't remember. This is really important. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. If they said something, then I need to know. It might help us find Eve. I told him. Matthew closed his eyes, thinking really hard. The guy that was holding her, he said that they only needed the girl. The girl is Eve, obviously. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What else did he say? I encouraged him. To tell the royal pack that he has her, Matthew stated. Did he say what pack he's from? He said a name. Matthew said a. It started with a J, or a T. Those letters don't even sound similar. How could he get them mixed up? I really need to learn how to be more patient. Try to remember, Matthew. Was it a J or a T? I urged. Matthew had a thoughtful expression on his face before he sighed. I can't remember. His eyes filling with tears. Close your eyes, Matthew, Drive, Nail said. After calming down, Matthew obeyed and laid back down on the bed with his eyes shut. I want you to think about what happened. What did the men look like? Where was Eve? Imagine the situation in your mind. I watched as Matthew's eyeballs moved from beneath his eyelids. What's happening? I asked Drive. Nail through the mind link. He's reliving it. It will help him remember, he explained. Matthew's eyes burst open and he shot up. I remember. He said Alpha Thomas. Alpha Thomas Jacobs. Matthew exclaimed. Who the hell is Al? Drive, Nail cut me off. Are you sure? He asked Matthew. Matthew nodded his head. He said, "Tell the royal pack that Alpha Thomas Jacobs has the future queen. And Matthew trailed off. What else did he say? Drive Nail questioned. If we want her back, we have to go get her, Matthew said quietly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Thank you for helping us, Matthew. You can rest now. Drive. Nail said to my mate's brother, then turned to me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A moment. I nodded and we walked out of Matthew's hospital room. I led the counselor into my office and we sat down. Would you like to explain what happened in there? Drive Nail nodded. Thomas Jacobs was an alpha. He lost his pack and his territory. He informed me. What pack? Crescent moon and nightfall. My eyebrows furrowed in confusion. He had 2 packs. I wondered. Yes, he mated with the alpha's daughter from nightfall. They combined their packs. How did he lose his pack and territory? I voiced my thoughts. Jacobs and the alpha's daughter had mates. Jacobs' mate was pregnant. When the 2 alphas mated, they killed their mates and the unborn child. Drive Nail explained. They killed their mates. The pain is that strong that it could literally kill someone. And I did that to Eve. I didn't fully mate with Wendy, but Eve still felt it. And the pain could have killed her. I could have killed her. I shook the thought out of my head and focused. Why would they take Eve? I asked Drive. Nail is a counselor and one of the wisest men in my pack. He knows almost everything, and he can strategize. He's a very important pack member. I have no idea. I don't understand why the royal pack would even have an interest in your mate, other than the fact that she is with the future queen. Eve isn't with the queen, I told Drive. Nail with a sigh. She is the future queen. Her parents died. Drive Nail asked. I nodded. She saw their body. Then she went into a coma. Which is why I was absent the past few weeks. I explained. Well, at least she had you. It would have been a lot harder without her mate. He mused. What do you mean? I questioned. She saw her parents' dead bodies. If that's not trauma, then I don't know what is. She went into a coma, so it is more than likely that she has PTSD, Drive Nail stated. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I still don't understand what that has to do with me. I mused. She needed you to get her strength back. When did she wake up from her coma? A few days ago, but she fainted yesterday. I informed him. She hasn't regained her full strength. She is fully healed, but her wolf isn't. She shouldn't be under any stress, or it could harm her wolf. So Eve is okay, but her wolf isn't. How is that even possible? A person and a wolf are connected. They share feelings, physical and emotional, and I hurt her. I put her under stress, and if her wolf is hurt, can that still hurt Eve? What happens if she's emotionally unstable? I voiced my thoughts. Can you feel it, Drive? Nail asked. We haven't completed the mate bond, but I know that when she was still here, she wasn't exactly relaxed. I answered, vaguely. Drive Nail sighed. Judging from the fact that she was in a coma and fainted yesterday, her wolf is extremely weak. Any more stress or trauma can potentially kill her wolf, he informed me. What? I exclaimed. Can that kill Eve? I'm not sure, but we need to find her, Drive Nail stated. I ran my hand down my face and sighed. How we only have a name. And he doesn't even have territory anymore. Drive Nail thought it over before answering. He wanted Matthew to tell the royal pack. The alpha must know where Jacobs is, or at least have some kind of lid. he suggested. I nodded. I'll call Alpha Hayes. Don't let the story end. Subscribe to continue our Wolfpack legend.